Before starting to drive a tank and leading a group of soldiers, as a graduate of the primary school, I was about to choose my future profession. And I was hesitating between going either to international relations or to law school. You won't believe, but I ended up in the School of Theatre and Cinema. Probably it was an influence of a movie that I watched the other evening that made me think of myself as a rising Hollywood star. But very soon I did recognize that I can hardly compete with Brad Pitt or act as De Niro. So it was too late to change something. And after another boring day in the school cafeteria, where I spent most of my time, I came back home, and on my brother's desk, I found a microeconomics book. It was 1,000 pages of formulas and graphs written in 6-inch font size, which was really hard to read. And as you would guess, I liked that book. The other morning, I went to the school, met with the founder, Dr. Daniel Dunn, and told him that I am determined to study business and economics. Of course, after introducing myself and my credentials, he wasn't really impressed. But he gave me a chance. So the next morning, I went to the school, got another 10 books very similar to the one on microeconomics, and went back home, took the Russian-English dictionary, and started translation. After translating the very first page, I recognized that the original text was less confusing. So the next morning, I went to the professors, met with the professors, started to bother them to explain me different concepts and definitions. And at the end of the first semester, I was the worst student in the short history of the school. But then it took me some hard work and diligence to graduate the school with a 4.8 GPA out of 5. And the lessons that I've learned in the school is the power of opportunity. Because I was given a chance to change my life. The importance of hard work and diligence. And finally, importance of education and its implication on the country. Today I'm going to talk about human capital and human capital development. And actually, the definition of the human capital was first used by the economist Schultz in the 1960s. And he defined and observed human capital as any other form of the capital, where by means of investing in education and skill building, you improve production and you improve the quality and quantity of the production. And whenever we're talking about productivity, it's something that is pretty much easy to measure because there is many ratios on the productivity that you can see. But my definition of human capital is slightly different. It's not only about productivity or education and skills. It is about talents. It is about some features like imagination or creativity, which is indeed very hard to measure. That's why if you turn your TV on Bloomberg channel, you'll find a lot of indicators on market capitalization, different forms of capitals, or market capitalization of 500 largest companies, such as S&P 500. But you won't find anything on the human capital measurement. I mean, any dynamics on the talents or any ratio of the diligence, imagination, or creativity. And actually, the human capital development is really important and challenging for the developing states. We see a lot of developing and middle income states which are suffering as a result of the brain drain. In addition, you see over-concentration of the development programs on the enrollment ratio, which is although very important, it's not enough. Because it's not only enrollment rate, but it's the quality of the education that is provided. But the problem is also vivid in developed countries from the perspective of inequality. One of the best works on the inequality written by the French economist Thomas Piketty, The Capital in the 21st Century, has identified that one of the best ways, based on the experience of the France and the United States, that one of the best ways to ensure economic development in the long-term strategic perspective is to invest in a high-quality education system. Let me now take a few examples, not more, maybe most popular, that demonstrating and illustrating importance what we have mentioned. One of that examples is Singapore. The so-called father of the Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, who himself got a very high-quality education, after coming back home, the country itself benefited from the British educational system that was established several decades ago. But then by means of building up on the existing capacities and also creating a program, so-called Contact Singapore program, they've been able not only to retain their talents at home, but also attract talents from abroad. And the program is not only the financial matters, that you basically pay high and you get the best experts or talented people. It's an enabling environment that you're creating to make sure that these talents stay at home, or these talents find a new home, such they did with the Contact Singapore program. And one simple example is availability of parks in Singapore that makes person walk, run, play in the park. They're feeling love toward the country. Another interesting example could be South Korea. It's basically one island with almost pretty much the same natural resources and people. But they live in two different worlds. And when you start to investigate, although there is many triggers that fostered economic development in the country, one of the most important was the investment in education. 8% of the gross domestic product for 30 years. And in addition to that, targeted skill building program, as the result of which they created what we see in the streets and we see in the stores. Another interesting example could be in Israel, which is always concentrating on the quality of the people and on a people itself, because they do believe that they don't have any natural resource, and so basically the only resource they have is people. And according to one of the research made by Forbes magazine, Israelis are one of the top high innovative, educated population in the world, which has been investing in advanced economic development. And this is important to mention, that education and skill building is not only about economic development, but it's also about political and social development. We all know that today many pundits are talking about fourth industrial revolution. And everyone is excited about this idea because we're moving on. We're creating something new, innovative and new. But other than opportunities, there is some challenges that could become opportunities. And one of these challenges is the increasing demand at fourth industrial revolution for high-skilled people, and tendency that decreases demand for low-skilled people. In other words, even from the perspective of the future, how we observe these challenges and opportunities, we do understand that education and skill building is important. But it's also important to create an enabling environment for people to create, to express their imagination and their talents. Ultimately, whenever we're talking about natural resources, we all understand that some natural resources, such as oil, is concentrated in one or other parts of the world. But the human capital is equally distributed. And although some nations usually say that they're slightly more talented than others, in general, human capital is equally distributed. Therefore, we have to create an enabling environment where those talents, creativity, innovativeness, diligence, and hard work would serve for the local and global good. Thank you.